Welcome to the Veterinary Marketing Podcast, where it's all about helping your veterinary practice attract, engage, and retain clients. Broadcasting a new podcast every Monday from sunny Southern California, here's your host, Brandon Bashirs.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode number 171 of the Veterinary Marketing Podcast. Very excited to have you on today's episode. We are going to be talking about something that I think is extremely important because if you don't have this, you won't get any action from any of the content that you produce, any of the videos you produce, any of the ads that you're putting out there. This is what it ultimately all comes down to, and it is attention. How do you grab the attention of your clients and customers as the marketplace becomes exceedingly more crowded? How do you stand out? We're going to go over some of the best ways to do that. I think it's going to be a really valuable episode. We're going to talk about ways that you can help to get your message out there, which is ultimately how you communicate at scale with your clients in your veterinary practice. It's so important. So before we begin, I want to mention a few things. First, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcasts. And also, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, be sure to head on over there to facebook.com/groups/the Veterinary Marketing Nerds. I'd also like to mention this episode is being sponsored by veterinarydentistry.net. Dr. Vetman helps to provide the best dentistry training for veterinarians to help you become more confident in your extractions and with your dentistry. So if you are a veterinarian and you're looking to up your game when it comes to dentistry, you should absolutely sign up for his next free training webinar. He does amazing trainings. He has such a passion for this. It is awesome to see the improvement that people get, the increased confidence. And I'm obviously not a doctor, but I understand that it can be very daunting and intimidating when it comes to dentistry. But I also know that this is a huge potential profit center for your veterinary practice. Every single one of your patients has teeth, and there is a good chance that they need dental work. So stop struggling with extractions. The next free webinar that he has is on September 1st. And in the future, if you still go to this link, it'll always be for the next training. He does live webinars about once a month. So if you go to veterinarymarketingpodcast.com/dentistry, you can sign up for his free webinar. Don't miss it. It's great stuff. Very, very highly recommended from people that have taken his courses, that have been on that webinar. There's a lot of great value there. So be sure to head on over to that. And let's get into today's episode. So if you want to reach more clients and more customers in your veterinary practice, how do you do that? And what is the best offer? And what kind of content should you be making? Ultimately, it doesn't matter if you can't get attention. So how do you get attention? How is it that you're going to cut through all the noise that's out there in social media or email or video work or whatever it is that you're doing? If you're doing something and creating content for your practice or you're creating offers or ads, how do you stand out? And how do you make it so that you're going to be successful? Because ultimately it's getting more and more difficult. And as the marketplace gets more crowded, you're just going to have to continue to adapt and stand out. So one thing, I'm going to just be kind of going through different ideas on how to do this and giving you tips. But I was actually at a marketing conference recently, and there was somebody there who he's not in the veterinary industry, but he was in the attorney space. He does trusts and stuff like that, and he has a practice. He's an attorney. And when he was starting out, he didn't have marketing experience, but he was very good at what he did. And so the way that he went out and improved the way that he generated clients and attracted clients to his law practice was he went out and he took a look at what everybody was doing and said, okay, here's what everybody's doing. I'm going to copy this, but I'm not going to copy it word for word. I'm going to brainstorm 10 ways per idea on how I can improve this. And then I'm going to implement it. And then I'm going to take a look at the results that happened, and then I'm going to copy what I did, but add improvements and brainstorm at least 10 improvements. How can I make this better? How can I make this pop more? What can I do to test this? How can I change this up? And then take the winners. So copy, improve, implement. That was his method, and that's painfully simple. And that is, I think, in general, a pretty brilliant method for trying to figure out what it is that the marketplace is already offering. How can you improve upon these different things and then implement those simple changes to that? And I'm not 100% not for plagiarizing or copying people's work word for word. But the truth is that there's almost nothing new under the sun in terms of marketing and advertising. Pretty much the shark has been jumped, probably, right? Somebody has probably done something that you're thinking of before. And so to try to come up with 100% original ideas, I think finding inspiration and it doesn't have to just be in the veterinary industry. You don't have to only look at, successful veterinary practices, because let's be honest, a lot of times veterinary practices are not out there, cutting edge doing stuff. And so if you can find local businesses, and this is why I think it's so important that you're a practitioner in the social media channel that you're actually using. So if you're going to be running ads on Facebook, you need to be scouring Facebook to see what are people doing? What is it getting engagements? If you see an ad for like a window washing company and they are doing an ad and it's amazing and it's getting comments and shares and likes, you're like, wow, this is really working. The marketplace is responding to this. What is working in this? How can I take this idea and this main idea? How can I adapt it to my industry? And then how can I improve it, make it my own, and then use it? And then always be learning in terms of what you're doing, what's working, what's getting engagement, and what's getting shares and things like that. But I think that is good, and copying the things that are working in your own business, improving upon them, and implementing is equally important. If you took a look at your own marketing and you said, okay, here's everything I'm doing, how can we improve this and take it to the next step, especially once it starts working? How can we create incremental improvements? And so you're always trying to move the needle, and even if it's working well today, if we can take that and make it work better in the future, it's going to be just continue to help grow your business and grow your practice, especially as it gets more crowded and more people are jumping on board with social and all these other channels. You're going to have to really, really be pushing it and improving upon what you're doing. If it's working today, chances are a year from now, probably won't be working. You're going to have something even better. So I think that that's really wise and a good place to work out. Now, another thing that is really helpful is using things that are unexpected. So if you're on Facebook and you're just seeing the normal stuff, what can you do that's unexpected that people don't typically see? And I'm not saying be shocking or anything, but creating stuff that is interesting through it being unexpected. And that's something that I think is helpful. You don't just want to blend in with everything else. And so making things that are very general are typically boring, and you don't want to be boring. So how can you make it unexpected? Whether it's a post, an email, an offer, whatever it is, how can you be unexpected? Now, chances are it's difficult to come up with these ideas, right? So I find that if I'm trying to brainstorm, and I'm just going to preface kind of all of these different ideas on how to get more attention through digital marketing, I think if you sit down and you force yourself to come up with a large volume of ideas, and you just force a brainstorm session, and you're going to give yourself a time limit. I find typically adding a time limit to this stuff helps just because it forces me to get out ideas. And so I actually took Seth Godin's Alt MBA course, and this was one of the things that we worked through in that, is that you sit down and one of the exercises was you have to come up with 100 business ideas in 5 minutes. And so you just start, crazy ideas. I'm going to start an ice cream truck. I'm going to start a cupcake business. Like, you just start throwing out weird ideas. And then you choose 10 of the best ones and you kind of expand those. And you had some really bad ideas. You had some okay ideas, but then you had a few really good ideas. And you're like, wow, this is actually really good. This would be fun to work on. I think the same thing goes with brainstorming and creating ideas and trying to figure out what is the best way to reach our customers. What's the best way to engage with them? What are they actually worried about? What are they concerned about? How can we be unexpected? How can we kind of change the content so that it gets attention, that it gets engagement? What is it that we can do? And so if you start thinking in terms of that and you start brainstorming those ideas, you're just going to start getting flow of ideas, especially if you have other people in your practice that you can collaborate with. It's just going to generate ideas. Now, the next thing, along with being unexpected, the next thing that you should do is you should make it about the client and the customer as often as possible. So people care about what's in it for me until they become attached to you and your practice, right? Like if you start talking about how great you are, that's cool. That's important to know that you're qualified, that you're going to do a great job, that you care about pets. But if it's not framed in terms of, here's why it's important to you, it's going to lose its power. And so make your advertising and your messaging all about the client. What is in it for them? Talk about their goals, their dreams, their anxieties, their fears, and help to really connect with what it is that they want and what they need. And ultimately, needs are more important than wants. And fears are typically, and anxieties are more strong than aspirations typically, right? If you tell somebody, hey, well, here's a perfect example. If you had a client, let's say that was a millionaire, and you were a money manager, for example, and you called them because you got a hot tip on a stock that if they went and they invested, they would make $10,000. And they had, let's say they had a bunch of money, right? And you called them, but you had to call them and wake them up at 3 a.m. If you called them and said, hey, I got this amazing tip. If you do this, you will make $10,000. Chances are they would be angry at you. Versus if you called them and said, you need to do something right now or else you're going to lose $10,000. That fear of loss is always a bigger, typically, motivator than potential for gain. And so understand that when you're talking about things about them, and you don't always want to be fear-mongering and selling fear and stuff, but fear of loss and anxieties and those things, those push the needle in terms of moving people to take action. If I was to tell you, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, you can get a vacation home and you'll have a wonderful, fun place for your family. Or if I said, hey, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're going to lose your house. There's a huge difference there in terms of, I will move a mountain to avoid losing my house. But, most people don't want to do extra work and things to try to get that next step. So think about that and make sure you're keeping that in mind too. The next thing that I think is very, very important is getting to the point when you're creating content. You don't want to just continue to have fluff and talk about what you're going to talk about and belabor the point and not provide value. People ask me, this is one of the most common questions that I get when we're talking about how to create content. It's like, okay, great. How long does that need to be? Okay, for videos, it has to be 7 minutes long. And for written, it has to be 1,200 words. That's like totally incorrect. How long does it need to be to cover all of the important points, to not add any extra fluff, and to provide the call to action? And that's as short as it should be. Always shorter. Don't overdo it. Too many times we're trying to hit these weird benchmarks. I need to have my Facebook videos be at least 3 minutes long so that I can beat the algorithm and get, whatever. For YouTube, we have to have 10-minute long videos because, X, Y, and Z. That is the wrong mindset to have every single time because you're going to end up putting crap in there and it's not going to be what it needs to be. So make sure that it needs to be as long as it needs to be. Make sure that it's not any longer or any shorter. Say it and produce it and get on. The next thing that helps you to get attention is to make your content so that it creates some kind of an emotional response. If you can get your clients to feel something, whether it's anger or fear or happiness or joy, if they can feel something when they see your content, it is going to help you get ahead. If you're going to make them laugh. I love using humor in content for clients. I love responding to people who are commenting with stuff with GIFs because that's funny and engaging. And so how do we make people feel something, especially if we can make them laugh and enjoy interacting with your business? The next time they think about you, they're going to have that association with, oh, they're really funny. I like their stuff that they're posting online because they're so funny. They seem like they're great people. I would love to have a veterinarian that is an actual person that's kind and funny and is going to be caring, right? Having that association is so important. One thing that you can do to arouse emotions too is you can basically target issues or specific things that you're trying to achieve in your practice and make it an us versus them type battle, so to speak. And I'm not trying to say divide people, and we see this all the time, but if you talk about pet care or specific conditions that you see that are 100% preventable, Like if you created a campaign that was, targeted around stopping heartworm, especially if you saw a lot of heartworm cases that were 100% preventable. And, I'm sure it breaks your heart in practice, right? So if you can convey that and help the pet owners to feel the emotion of, this is so terrible, here's what's happening, and the worst part is that it is preventable. And really helping to get that out there, that if you can help move people to an emotion, you're going to help them to take action really, really easily. So make your content, don't be afraid to produce emotion, and don't be afraid to show emotion. That leads me to the next idea, which is make sure that your content is authentic. And that is thrown around so many times out there. You hear that all the time. Authentic. What does that mean, though? You have to be real to who you are, what kind of content you produce, what is important to you. If you are somebody who uses big words and you're not informal, right? You're a super formal person, that's okay. You need to make content that is that way. If you're somebody who is super informal and says things like awesome and cool beans, or whatever it is that you say, I'm sure I say that all the time, and I don't really pay attention to what I say because I'm just creating content how I normally speak. Right? That's being authentic. Some people, like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, they swear all the time because that's authentic. That's not my style. I actually feel uncomfortable swearing all the time. So I don't do that in any of my content, even if it was a pattern interrupt and it could get you more clicks and engagement and stuff like that. So I just say that to say that if you're creating content that you want to get attention and interest, be yourself. Talk about things that you like to do and like to talk about, and things that you really care about. Now, you're a veterinary and a veterinary professional, and you people are crazy about animals. Like, there's nobody crazier about animals than you, especially like you vet techs out there. You guys are nuts about animals, and that is awesome. And so let that come through in your content. Be nuts about animals. Be enthusiastic. It is so hard to find people who are passionate and enthusiastic about anything nowadays. People rarely feel stuff anymore, right? We're always desensitized by just all the stuff that we see, and it's just a constant barrage of just junk in front of us. And so when you see somebody who's genuinely enthusiastic about what they do and they love it, that's infectious. And somebody who comes to mind with that was Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, right? He was crazy about crocodiles and just the way that he talked about it, and he was so excited, right? That was his personality. It's hard. It would be hard to fake it if that wasn't, how he was. So that kind of infectious, enthusiasm helps to come across. Like I think also of like Cody Krillman, for example, who does his cow vet videos, and he loves that. And you couldn't fake it, right? How can you have enthusiasm about cutting open and doing an autopsy on a post-mortem for a beef cow, right? That's gross, but it's what he loves. And so like that weird enthusiasm that comes through that's why people love his content, because he's not faking it. He loves it. He's passionate about it, and it comes through. So I love marketing, right? That's what I'm talking about here. I genuinely get so excited when I start talking about all of the new cool dynamic retargeting tools and the product catalog tools, and I start geeking out on the new amazing machine learning optimization ideas within Google ads and Facebook ads and all the new stuff coming out. It's super exciting. If I didn't love that stuff, it would be super hard to talk about this for 5 years, okay? You went to vet school or you work in the veterinary industry because you love animals. Get excited about it and don't feel bad about being excited about it. The next thing is curiosity. Curiosity is a great thing that you can use to help generate interest, right? And so if you make it about them and you make it about something that they can get and benefit, I find that curiosity is always a great headline, a great opener, and it just helps to get people interested. People want to know, they want to be in the know, right? And so creating either content or email lists or opt-ins or different ways for people to engage with you, that is really going to be all about something that they get. But increasing curiosity is always a way to get more clicks, more engagement, and just people to be interested, because people want to be in the know. They don't like to be left out. And then I think really the last way that I'm going to leave you with, actually there's two more ways. The second to last way that we're going to talk about how to get more engagement and attention is to be hyper specific. being general has lost its place in the internet, and just super general things is not for you. Now, you have tools that allow you to target and segment like crazy. You can get down to so much detail, and in terms of, what it is that you're trying to target, who you're trying to engage. Create content that is for specific groups of people, and they're going to respond to it. So, like, if you wanted to create content for your veterinary practice for Halloween, for example, right? It's August. It's almost time to start thinking about Halloween posts and stuff, right? If you talked about the 10 best costumes for Star Wars fans for their dogs, you're going to get Star Wars fans to respond to it. If you're going to create, content that's 2 times the segment, right? You have dog owners and you have Star Wars fans. The more specific that you can get, the better you're going to be. If you wanted to create content for, okay, let's do, what is the best kind of pet that single moms should have help their kids get, right? I'm just thinking of like additional segments. We have moms, we have single moms, they have small kids, and they're looking to get a pet. Like, you're going to start getting engagement just because it's so specific. That's why this podcast gets engagement. It is so specific. It is for the veterinary industry, and it is for marketing. So there's virtually no competition right now in the podcasting space. And so that's why people listen to this podcast. That's why you're listening to this podcast. It's for you. So who can your marketing be for? And really, how can you reach those people with specific pieces of content or specific offers? And the more specific you make it, the more custom tailored for that person and that client or that client type, the more that they're going to appreciate it, the more that they're going to share it, and the more they're going to sing your praises. So figure out how can you really attract different segments with a very specific offer or a very specific piece of content. Okay? The last thing that I think is extremely important is how can you offer a quick win? This is so helpful, and this really helps you to get attention. If I was to say to you, like, for example, here's an example in the marketing space. If I was to say to you, hey, are you running Google Ads right now? A lot of veterinary practices are. I'd say, great. I want you to check these very specific settings. There's 3 settings. It takes 5 minutes. Chances are you're wasting more than half of your ad budget. If you check these 3 boxes, it will save you money. It will increase your click-through rate. It'll decrease your cost per click, and you'll get more clients in your practice. And I showed you how to do that, and that's a real thing I can show you. But if I showed you how to do that, you did it, and it was a quick win, all of a sudden you'd be like, wow, this is amazing. You just made me a ton of money. How can I help you? Like, I want more info from you, right? What is it the quick win that you can provide pet owners? Whether it's like behavioral training, or whether it's potty training, or whether it's health related, or whether it's like dental related, or what is it that you can offer that's going to be that quick win that the pet owner will see a result, and then when they implement the thing that you taught them, all of a sudden the credibility goes through the roof because, wow, this pet owner, this veterinarian gave me info that I used right away, and it helped to improve the quality of my life, quality of my pet's life. Like, I'm in. This is amazing. What else does this person have that I can use? And so I know that it's kind of counterintuitive to like give away something that's like that beneficial, but the truth is that once you give something away that is helpful and immediately gives a quick win, you're going to be able to get increased compliance from your clients, and they're going to want to just stick with you. So think about that. That is extremely, extremely valuable. What is it that you could offer in your practice that would give your clients a quick win? And if you can do that, you're golden for sure. So listen, I hope that this episode was helpful to you. If you ever have any questions or you need help with anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. You definitely should join the Facebook group, the Veterinary Marketing Nerds. And again, if you're a veterinarian and you're looking to increase your abilities when it comes to veterinary dentistry, be sure to head on over to Veterinary Dentistry and actually go to veterinarymarketingpodcast.com/dentistry. Listen, I enjoyed today's episode. I hope that I see you on next week's episode. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.